Hello, this is Ashley with Healing Magical Souls. Today, I wanted to talk about different types of healing. There's lots of forms that you can do when it comes to your healing journey. Some of them you might be stumbling on it just as you're doing a Google search. You might have friends that might suggest something to you, or our parents even sometimes teach us this is how you can heal stuff. And there's no right way, wrong way. It's whatever works best for you. So, some of the different types of healing that I have discovered and that I wrote down for this video is there's physical healing, which, if we stumble as a kid and scrape our knee, you're just healing. It's just something physical that happened to you and you just have to heal from it. And then there's the emotional healing. So, when your friend and you get in a fight, and you're really upset about it, you might just have to go and heal those emotions over the fight and just get through all of that emotional stuff and then get feeling better on the other side. There's mental healing. As you may know, there's lots of mental illnesses out there that people struggle with, and there's just different things that you have to try to see what works best for you, to see, what is the clear way, what helps you the most. And then there's spiritual healing, and that's the one that I really like to do is go more into like the hippie world and do healing through different modalities that way. And that also kind of runs with the holistic healing. And for that, there's different things that you can do also. And energetic healing, for me, that is a lot of Reiki. And then there's also a thing called self healing, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. And some of the physical healing modalities that you can do are things like massage, acupuncture. You could go to the chiropractor, if you have a physical element where your back is hurting, you can go to the chiropractor and they can help heal you and get you feeling better. And then you might later on have to do a massage instead or the acupuncture. There are things like physical therapy that you have to do to help heal that physical element. There are some herbal medicines, like some herbs, teas, supplements that you can also do that would also be considered like a physical healing because you're literally physically taking those into your body and that they are just using those to help heal you from the inside out. There's also things like the hydrotherapy. I've personally never done it, but I know there's lots of people out there that have tried it. So it's just something that, you don't want to necessarily cross off your list if you haven't done it before, because maybe it's something that works really best for you. Some of the emotional healing modalities are things like the traditional therapy, just talk therapy. It could be to the therapist, you could talk to your pet, your best friend, just talking it out sometimes just helps people get through that bump in the road. It just helps them get through whatever they're going through in that thick of it because it just helps them. They start talking about the problem and then sometimes solutions pop out. I mean, we've all done it. So you understand what I'm trying to say with that one. Some other things that you could do is just do some art. I mean, that's what they do with the kids when something happens and they want the kids to open up to a therapist. They'll have them sit down and do some art and have them color and draw and talk about what they're doing. And that also kind of leads into the grief for the emotional. Sometimes, we just don't know how else to handle a situation. So we go back to the basics of talking, doing artwork, and crying it out, stuff like that. There's also EFT tapping, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And for EFT, that's where you tap on certain points on they're like acupuncture points in your body. So, like the top of your head, the top of your eyebrow, side of your eye, under your nose, your chin, your collarbone. Some people do it under the armpit, and some like to do it here. We all have our different preferences on what we like to do and what taps we like to focus on during a session. But that helps you relieve some of that emotional stuff in your subconscious mind and just helps it flow out. And then you can also do somatic healing, which just kind of focuses on releasing trauma that's stored in your body. And for that, you would focus on the physical sensations. And I found that really interesting when I did my research and learned about some of the somatic stuff that the life coaching class I took, the lady is like, okay, somebody has something physical that they want to talk about. One of the students said, yeah, my leg has been hurting. Well, after digging more into it and she's asking the certain questions about the leg pain, come to find out it had to do with, I want to say it was like her parent or something that was nagging her, and she was just storing that in her body. And instead of it being in her mind, it ended up in her leg, which is really kind of interesting when you think about it, that our bodies can do that and store stuff. I mean, it's the same thing with our backs. Like if you are stressed out, your back and shoulders could be storing all that stress. And for mental healing, there's other things that you could do for cognitive behavioral therapy, which kind of focuses on changing the negative thought patterns and behaviors. That's something that I've personally never done, but I've seen stuff online about it. So you'd have to go to a therapist for that, who is actually trained on how to do that. They call it CBT therapy. My favorite one is meditations. I love a good guided meditation. I just feel like they always open new doors and new possibilities and kind of brings you back to square one within you, your basic blueprint. And then that's how you can move forward with some of your mental stuff that you're going through. There's also hypnotherapy, which I've done this a few times and it's really interesting. You can use the guided meditation and it focuses your attention on rewiring the negative thought patterns within you. And also people will use that to dig down deep and to find the answers within them for whatever they have questions about. So that one's always a really neat one. You want to ideally get paired up with somebody that has learned about it, practice it, maybe been through it themselves. So that way you make sure you're getting the most out of your session if you do that. There's also neurofeedback for mental healing. And this uses your brain waves to do feedback to teach yourself self-regulation for mental and emotional well-being. That's another one that I've never done, but it sounds really interesting. If you've ever done that, leave me a comment because I'd be interested to hear how your experience was. And then some of the spiritual healing that I personally like to do is things like Reiki, which uses the life force energy within us. It helps clear out some old energy, bring in the new, and it's just a really beautiful thing. It also pairs up with chakra healing. A lot of people will talk about that. And to me, chakra healing and Reiki are like the same things. It's just we have the chakras throughout our body, and you focus a lot on the chakras versus Reiki, where you can focus on stuff like if you have pain in your arm, you can send Reiki to that pain and it helps kind of change the like energy within that area. So the crystals, I'm sorry, the chakras are just different points within us that we can focus on to help open up the awareness and get that spiritual aspect of it. It's just really neat when you start to learn about it. There's crystal healing that I've learned about and I'm not really good at doing, but it's really interesting and fascinating to me that there's these different crystals that you can get to help with different parts of your body, different parts of your emotions. They have a crystal for everything. And it's kind of, I think the reason I haven't really pursued it is because there's so much to it. There's so many crystals out there, and there's so many different crystals that work for different things, but can also cross over. So if you have I don't know, like a fear of the dark. You could use a certain crystal that will help you for that fear, but it's also like emotional support or clears your emotions for that time. So it's really interesting to hear and learn about all those different crystals that are out there. There's sound healing, and for that, a lot of people like to do the sound bowls. And you can look on YouTube and hear some of the music that people play with that. You can also just listen to like gentle music and the sound of water trickling. There's just so many different ways that you can go about with sound healing. And it also kind of goes along with breath work. And just moving your breath and focusing in on your body, on what you need at that moment, is also just a really good form of healing. Just listening to yourself is really big. And also, the final one that I thought of for spiritual healing is doing something like the Akashic Records. Whenever I go into the records, it's a beautiful place to do any type of healing. You could do the grief, you could do physical, you could do a mental, emotional, whatever. And the Akashic Records are known as like the spiritual library in the sky. It holds all of our energetic blueprint from the first spark of our soul, all the way from our past lives, present lives, future lives. It's really fascinating, interesting. You can use the records, yeah, for anything. It's really neat to get the guidance and clarity on stuff and just be in that space. I feel like just being in the space is really helpful for most people. It is for me, at least, to get whatever I need answered or healed or whatnot. So the other way of healing is the holistic way. And there's an ancient Indian system of healing that uses like your diet, lifestyle changes, herbal remedies. It helps you rebalance your body, mind, and spirit. And I'm not 100% sure on how to say this word. I think it's your Verda. I'm not, don't quote me, I don't know, but it sounds really interesting how it's kind of like going back to the basics of using your lifestyle, changing your diet, your mind and body, just focusing on probably all the stuff that we're talking about to help balance you out and get back to who you are at the core. And of course, there's traditional Chinese medicine, which is like acupuncture. You can use the herbs that match up to whatever you are needing healed, Tai Chi, and I think it's Qi Gong to restore the balance and health within you. And that's just kind of like using the emotions that you go through to help move the energy within your body. I haven't quite looked into all of that, but if you have, let me know in the comments because that's something that would be interesting to learn more about. There's the neuropathy, which is using like your diet, exercise, the herbal remedies, supporting your body's abilities to heal. So once you get that healing going with the herbs, you can just connect to your body and let your body do the healing for you. Because ultimately we are all beings that know how to heal ourselves. It's just getting all of the noise from everybody else out of the way so you can listen to what your body needs in that moment. And for homeopathy, it's a holistic practice that uses your substance to stimulate the body's natural healing response. And that kind of just ties in with all of the other ones I just talked about with like traditional Chinese medicine and the herbs and all that. So there's a whole different realm of healing that most of us don't even realize is out there, which I think is really cool. There's also self-healing, which is it's kind of an interesting word when you think about it, because I'm like, well, we're all self-healers. Like why is there such a category for this? But as I looked more into it, it was kind of like, oh yeah, duh, back to the basics of doing your meditation, yoga. You can do journaling, and even gratitude practices are some self-healing modalities that you can do. And for like mind body healing, there's the Tai Chi, and I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, the Kai Guang. And that just uses movements based on practices that promote the flow of energy and improve your physical and mental emotion. And there's also biofeedback. And that's a technique that trains individuals to control the physiological processes like your heart rate, your muscle tension through feedback and relaxation techniques. And another one that I like to always look at the posters when I go to a massage place or when I'm on Pinterest, I like to look at the reflexology. I always think that's really interesting. That's something that you can do where it focuses on applying pressure to specific points of your hands, feet, ears that correspond with different organs and the body and different systems. So I remember when I was in my early 20s having some anxiety, they had some people at my work that specialized in putting seeds in your ears. So I would go to her and I would say, okay, I'm having anxiety. And she would put a seed in different parts of my ear and she would put a band-aid on it. It looked like a band-aid. And that little seed was pushing in on that certain acupressure point. And as it was pushing into that point, it was giving me the relief from the anxiety, which was really cool because who would have thought of having anxiety points in your ear? I always hear about ones in your feet and your hands, and they had all different kinds of different things that they could do, especially with acupuncture on different points. That they could just focus on. So one time I went in for some heartburn and they put like a needle right in the middle of my head. And I think one was in between my toes or something weird. It was just a weird spot. And then, of course, a few on my stomach that helps with dealing with heartburn. So there's all kinds of different things that you can do, different ways that you can heal yourself. Some of my personal favorites that I like to do are EFT tapping. So I like to do this with somebody that has been trained in EFT tapping, or I go on YouTube and I'll go to them and say, okay, here's what I want to work on. And they may write it down, like in my life coaching class, we would write it down what the person wanted to talk about and work on. And then we would come up with little phrases that the client would repeat after the practitioner. So as you are doing the tapping, you're saying the phrase at the same, or not at the same time, but like right after the practitioner says it. So if you were saying, that you're listening and you're keeping your monkey mind occupied because you're tapping, and if the practitioner says, I feel this anxiety in my body, and they stop, then that's what you would say right after. So then you would say, I feel this anxiety in my body. And then they would move to another spot. It is safe for me to release it. So it's really neat. It moves a lot of energy throughout your body and it does it quickly. And a lot of the therapists out there, they were starting to use a lot more EFT tapping. And I just think that's really cool because they're recognizing that this is a modality that is really valuable for all different kinds of things that you want to work on. Any issue that you can think of, there's a tapping for it. And my other favorite one is Reiki. And that's just using the life force energy within us to help move the energy throughout your body. It goes through your chakras. It helps you open up your chakra and keep it flowing the right way. And when the energy is stuck within you, you can release it through Reiki. You can do Reiki on other people and yourself, which is really cool. So, some of the practitioners, especially when I first got my certificate, I would practice on myself, I would practice on my pets and my family. And a lot of feedback I get is just how much better they feel. And there's lots of yawning afterwards. You just feel so deeply relaxed. It's a really beautiful way to move the energy. And of course, the meditation, what I talked about before, is another one of my favorites. And I love to do the guided meditation because it kind of keeps my monkey brain occupied on focusing on the words that people are saying so then that way I can just focus on my subconscious mind and what I want to work on. And then, of course, there's talk therapy, just, talking to your friends, talking to a therapist or a life coach or whatever you want to do. And I always feel like that's what helps us, especially us women, when we start talking to another person about what's going on in our life or a situation that happened, it helps you clear that energy and then it helps you guys brainstorm on what the next steps are. So, all of these are things that spiritual life coaches can help you with, and some of my favorite modalities. So, I just wanted to share them. Let me know in the comments if you have any others that you would add to the list or not. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. Take care for now. Bye.